This is an urgent follow-up to our previous video about the Trump administration successfully orchestrating the indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live. And if you thought that story couldn't possibly get any worse, guess again. We have two major updates which make this even more sinister. Number one, it's now been reported that ABC executives suspended Kimmel because they feared retaliation from the Trump administration, not because they felt he deserved it. And number two, it appears Kimmel is now being effectively extorted by Sinclair, a massive, vast right-wing broadcasting group who says that even if ABC lifts the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live, Sinclair will not broadcast his show unless he apologizes to Charlie Kirk's family, makes a massive personal donation to Charlie Kirk's family, and number three, makes a massive personal donation to Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's right-wing political operation. That would be like forcing Hannity to donate to Planned Parenthood. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. Folks, this is huge. This is a major escalation in Trump's war on the First Amendment. As I note here in my recap, number one, the Trump FCC issues a public threat. Number two, Kimmel is suspended because executives fear Trump, not because they agree. Number three, Sinclair demands Kimmel apologize and donate money to a political cause Kimmel vehemently opposes. And number four, Trump celebrates and threatens others. So we should probably start with that. Donald Trump, of course, took a victory lap about this. Trump celebrates the censorship of Jimmy Kimmel's show and threatens that Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers are next. Trump went on Truth Social last night, even though he's in the United Kingdom, and he says, "Great news for America. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel show is canceled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent, and that's worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. President DJT." Okay. Now, again, as a reminder, I want you to hear what Jimmy Kimmel said, which prompted this entire thing. We will get to the new updates, but I have to make sure, I want this to be comprehensive, that you remember what happened. Then we'll get to the big updates.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
That was the joke. Pretty anodyne. Again, I want to be clear. Jimmy Kimmel actually publicly condemned the political violence against Charlie Kirk and issued a really heartfelt statement about it. This was a joke about Trump's reaction to it. Now, in response to that, yesterday, FCC Chairman Brandon Carr, who's basically in charge of the regulatory agency over broadcasting networks, he is a right-wing partisan hack, the likes of which we have never seen. He goes on fellow right-wing MAGA hack Penny Johnson's podcast and just directly, publicly threatens Jimmy Kimmel, ABC, and Disney.
There's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters, and frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt, we are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we licensed broadcaster, are running the possibility of fines or license revocation from the FCC if we continue to run content that ends up being a pattern of news distortion. So I think, again, Disney needs to see some change here, but the individual licensed stations that are taking their content, it's time for them to step up and say, this, garbage, to the extent that that's what comes down the pipe in the future, isn't something that we think serves the needs of our local communities. But this sort of status quo is obviously not acceptable where we are. There's action.
So there you go. Just an explicit threat. Take care of Jimmy Kimmel. Otherwise, you might even see the revocation of your FCC license. So now, let's get into some of the new updates, okay? This is courtesy of Rolling Stone. Jimmy Kimmel Live pulled indefinitely by ABC over Charlie Kirk comments. So I want to skip because it just recaps the story as we know it, but it also breaks specific things right here. The decisions by Nexstar and ABC to silence Kimmel over relatively innocuous comments is the latest sign of how terrified major corporations and media companies have grown of the second Trump administration. Trump and his lieutenants have made clear that they're willing to leverage the full weight of the federal government against networks and their parent companies, especially if TV personalities or comedians on the network say things that annoy Trump. So, right here, here's the key part. In the hours leading up to the decision to pull Kimmel, two sources familiar with the matter say senior executives at ABC, its owner Disney, and the affiliates convened emergency meetings to figure out how to minimize the damage. Multiple executives felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, the two sources say, but the threat of the Trump administration's retaliation loomed. They were pissing themselves all day, one ABC insider tells Rolling Stone. This is huge. We now have reporting, courtesy of leaks from ABC, that executives were like, this isn't it. Like, we shouldn't suspend him. But they felt that the retaliation from Trump would be overwhelming. So they caved. This is absolutely disgraceful and terrifying. I want to be clear, Trump and Brendan Carr are most responsible, but the capitulation of ABC to Trump and Carr is also unforgivable, shocking. And to have it sourced so directly, to know that it's not even a matter of speculation. People who work there, who were involved, were like, yes, they didn't think Kimmel deserved this, but they were afraid of Trump. This is what Trump wanted, so they bent the knee. Now that takes it to a whole new level of sinister, because again, it just confirms the obvious speculation. But if that's not bad enough, then you have this. Sinclair. As Micah Irfan, who is a contributor to Mockler Media, which is an offshoot of Midas Touch, it's led by Adam Mockler. He's one of the key policy advisors. He points this out. A major American broadcaster is now demanding that Jimmy Kimmel donate to TPUSA. Okay, so let's take a look here. This is the letter that Sinclair wrote in response to this, and the specific excerpt is extremely important. Sinclair also calls upon Mr. Kimmel to issue a direct apology to the Kirk family. Furthermore, we ask Kimmel to make a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. Regardless of ABC's plans for the future of the program, Sinclair intends to not return Jimmy Kimmel Live to our air until we are confident that appropriate steps have been taken to uphold the standards expected of a national broadcast platform. So the apology for the joke, I still think, especially under these circumstances, would be censorious, demanding the apology in this way. If this happened independently, if the Trump administration weren't involved, then I would understand demanding an apology. People have a right to demand apology for tasteless jokes. But set that aside. A meaningful personal donation, not just to the Kirk family, but to Turning Point USA. I saw this somewhere. That's why I cribbed it in the intro. That would be like the Biden administration pressuring Fox and Sean Hannity to not only apologize to somebody, but to make a personal donation to Planned Parenthood. That's it. It looks like de facto extortion. And as far as Sinclair is concerned, again, we're not going to get into the whole thing, but they have been discussed time again. Salon has a really good article from them about them from last year, how a semi-secret right-wing empire is blanketing America with lies. And it goes into the detail about how Sinclair has basically gobbled up so much of the percentage of like local TV stations and things in this country, and they have a right-wing bent. And they got busted last year by Aaron Rupar coordinating almost word for fucking word scripts across the country, local TV station, from one coast to the other, attacks on President Biden's mental health, almost word for word. That's how coordinated they are. And they're the ones issuing this threat. Some other things I want to point out, though, since this is a general update to last night's video. SAG-AFTRA is publicly condemning the decision to suspend Jimmy Kimmel's show. Democracy thrives when diverse points of view are expressed. The decision to suspend airing Jimmy Kimmel Live is the type of suppression and retaliation that endangers everyone's freedoms. Our society depends on the freedom of expression. Suppression of free speech and retaliation for speaking out on significant issues of public concern run counter to the fundamental rights we all rely on. Democracy thrives when diverse points of view are expressed. The decision to suspend airing Jimmy Kimmel Live is the type of suppression and retaliation that endangers everyone's freedoms. SAG-AFTRA, I think it might be, stands with all media artists and defends their right to express their diverse points of view and everyone's right to hear them. Now, some other things I want to point out here. This is from, again, late last night, and it's a reporter at CNN saying, according to insiders, it seems unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely, that Kimmel will return to air.
And back with our breaking news, Jimmy Kimmel's show pulled off the air indefinitely amid controversy for suggesting in a monologue that the suspected killer of Charlie Kirk might have been a pro-Trump Republican. Elizabeth Wagmeister is back with us. And Elizabeth, you've been breaking news on this throughout the night, and I know you've got new information. What have you found out?
Yes, so a source close to the situation tells me that this is not a cancellation at the moment, but there is no timeline for the show to come back. As we know, ABC said officially in their statement that this is preempted indefinitely, but I have to tell you, Aaron, my phone is blowing up. People in the industry are absolutely shocked over this, and many people saying that even though it's not a cancellation at this moment, it's hard to imagine the show coming back. This is not about one comment about Charlie Kirk's killer. This is a decade of Jimmy Kimmel bashing Trump. They've been going back and forth for years, so it's really hard to imagine Trump rolling out the red carpet and saying, hey, you've taken a break, why don't you come back on the air? So that's where things stand right now, but people just really shocked in Hollywood, Aaron.
So that doesn't look good, right? Again, it's an indefinite suspension, not technically a cancellation, but it is not good at all. And then we're going to close with one more clip and a call to action. So this is the Biden-appointed FCC commissioner. So she serves on the FCC, Ana Gomez, but she's just not the head of the FCC, unlike Brendan Carr. This is her take on this.
FCC together, you work with him. He went out and said this.
So I think we really need to make very clear that the First Amendment does not allow us, the FCC, to tell broadcasters what they can broadcast. Personally, I'd rather not speak ill of the dead, but I understand Jimmy Kimmel is a satirist and a comedian. I saw the clip. He did not make any unfounded claims, but he did make a joke, one that others may even find crude. But that is neither illegal nor grounds for companies to capitulate to this administration in ways that violate the First Amendment. And we must be careful not to allow the government to punish critics simply because of content. This sets a dangerous new precedent, and companies must stand firm against any efforts to trade away First Amendment freedoms.
Agreed. And it seems so far they are unwilling to do so. They are capitulating in fear. And again, I want to be clear. The vast bulk of the moral culpability falls to Trump and Brendan Carr. They have agency. I'm not going to excuse what the right wing is doing because, it's Trump, it's MAGA, it's what they do. No. This is primarily on them. But secondarily, it is these companies. It is these networks. It is ABC. It is Nexstar. This is a problem. And so with that in mind, Waja Ali, friend of the show, points out, every major talent that works for ABC and Disney should refuse to show up for work until Jimmy Kimmel is reinstated. Marvel movies need to shut down, ditto the sitcoms, collective boycott. Corporations love money more than anything, and this will really harm them and force them to do the right thing. I agree. I think unless there's some sort of like contractual obligation where they are compelled to by force of law, if there's any way that they can actually do this en masse, this is incredibly important. They should do this. And you know what? They might even need to do it anyway. Like this is insane. There needs to be a civil protest from the most powerful people in Hollywood. Most actors in Hollywood are liberal. You know, Scarlett Johansson is liberal. Robert Downey Jr. is liberal. So like if you had the whole cast from, Avengers, Doomsday walk out, that could hurt and that could draw attention to this. And there needs to be some sort of collective action, civil, but there needs to be some sort of collective action on this because this is a radical escalation in Trump's war on free speech. So again, I wanted to provide this very important follow-up. We have so much more to talk about. Brendan Carr is making the media rounds, putting his face in front of cameras, taking a victory lap over this. We're going to unpack all of that. But there you have it. We have confirmation that ABC executives did not suspend Kimmel because they felt he deserved it, because they felt that the Trump administration would retaliate. And we also have Sinclair effectively extorting Kimmel, saying, hey, the only way we're putting your ass back on the air is if you apologize and you give your money, not just to Charlie Kirk, but to a political organization that had been run by Charlie Kirk that we know you loathe. It's gross, it's disgusting, and everybody needs to be calling this out. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.